Hey everyone, it's Time Spiraled. We're back with some more MSEM. We've got some league matches here as we close out the month. We are already done with our Grand Prix. Just to give you guys a little better view here of the cards in your hand. You might see a familiar face or two or three hanging out here in Kayiu's hand. And up there we have Galatian Cheese on their first league match of MSEM, and they said that they were totally fine with us giving this recording a shot. So we're after the Grand Prix. Phoenix took the win, and well, players are happily playing in the league, getting up some of those league points. It's not a flawless victory so far. I don't believe we've had a 5-0 with Phoenix in a bit. I'd have to go check deck list though to confirm. But it's here to stay at least until the end of the month. We are going to be changing some of the cards in it, and we've already discussed some of those changes publicly, and we'll talk about that maybe during the match if we get the moment. Over here in Galatian Cheese's hand, I'm seeing a lot of lands. I'm seeing Herald and Inked Summoner, which pretty much tells me we're going to be on some form of a Monument Herald build. And Kayiu, of course, is on Phoenixes. Speaking of, there's the three of them in the hand. They will not be there for much longer because we have cards like Unquenched Greed right here, which are able to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards, followed up by a Data Recovery, and we have a second land, which means that we went relax on turn 1. We didn't bin everything because that means that next turn we'll be able to go Unquenched Greed, binning 2 Phoenixes, followed by a Data Recovery, binning a 3rd Phoenix. And because Data Recovery casts copies, we're going to have 3 Phoenixes on turn 2. That's a little rough for Galatian Cheese, not going to lie. But, oh, well, if we had held... Interestingly enough, if we had held up Anapraxia's Endeavor here, we could have absolutely gotten them. But, hey, here's Inked Summoner. The interesting thing is, this card is able to generate some pretty neat tokens by virtue of just having lost a certain amount of life. Because we lost 4 between these 2 cards, we were able to get up to Inked Summoner's second mode. So instead of getting a 1/1 bird with Flyer, we got a 3/3 with Death Touch. Interestingly enough, the Flyer would have been able to block those Firebirds, but here it is. 2 birds from the hand going to the yard. Sometimes, though, you can't just say, hey, I'm just going to hold up this interaction on 2. You got to push to the board. But it is funny how Anapraxia's Endeavor in this situation would have hit 3 of the birds, which really would have set Kayiu back. But it happens. They don't have a perfect omniscient vision here on cards in opponents' hands. And starting with 3 Phoenixes, Greed, and Discovery is pretty much, the best. But also, yes, sorry, I made a mistake. Because the 3rd cast triggers immediately before these resolve, we're not getting 3 Phoenixes back. So it's slightly less worrying. I guess there would have been a world where turn 1, we binned 1 of the Phoenixes or 2 of them, and then we could have gotten, I believe, all 3 here. But 2 Phoenixes is more than enough. You've got some in the yard, which means that actually you've kind of like split your thing. So your opponent has to deal with the 1 in the yard plus the 2 on the board. So ultimately, it all works out. We're seeing more monument key pieces, cards like Profane Emissary, cards like Iron Warden, which isn't horrible. Warden can get rid of 1 of the opponent's Phoenixes if we find a way to kill it off. Anapraxia's Endeavor here, not horrible, but we don't have the mana yet for the removal, but we do have a Corpse Bed in hand, which means that if we kill, let's say, one of the Phoenixes with Anapraxia's, for example, we can then drop the tapped Corpse Bed, exiling both out of the graveyard, and then the possible clock is quite a bit slower. We've got 4 power on board. None of it's in the air, so there is that to consider. And as long as we keep tapping that Murmuring Falls, we're actually going... Sorry, no, it's 2 or more life, not 1. So we'll have to find another way to lose a point of life, which could have been the Nebula, but I'm pretty sure Corpse Bed is decent here. We're not sequencing anything at 3 mana this turn, so Galatian's going to think about it a little bit. So, oh well, thinking's over. We're going with the Nebula of Empty Gold. We're going to pay the 2 life. I'm guessing we're going to go blue and black, perhaps, in this case. Yep. So that'll be the life enough to get the 1/1 black bird with flying. Now the question is, All right, let's see what's being run out here. Okay, it is the Herald. Our life totals were low enough that we're just gonna go for the big beats plan. Honestly, that's totally fine. The fact that this thing is going to be decently big here is quite nice. Yeah, 6/6 flyer can block one of those phoenixes, so and I guess we will get the 2 life. Actually, that's easily the best play, and I was so focused on getting rid of them that I actually completely failed to think that we can just slam in Herald. I also keep forgetting Herald has flying. That is something that happens a lot. The original art has these like teeny tiny wings, and like they're kind of hidden behind these like big shoulder spikes. So I'm constantly just thinking he's just a big body. No, there's definitely wings going on. So that is something to consider. Main board, what does Phoenixes have to deal with things like this? There's double burn spells that can be pointed at the face, but no, actually this is dropping down a 6/6 flyer is a pretty good way of saying, telling Phoenixes to just relax for a little bit. And I guess this also makes more sense in the fact that if we do swing in, by the way, Miyoga Firebirds have to attack each combat if able. That is a downside on them. You get to just block with the Herald, put one more in the bin, and then next turn you can corpse bed 2 of them, so you never really have to deal with them. All right. It was a big hit, but yes, sorry. Galatian Cheese definitely had an answer to this. Going down to super low life totals early does allow Herald of Oblivion to effectively curb Phoenix's aggressive start. So, okay. So we're doing the 2 blocks here. Again, Phoenixes have to attack. They're just like that. And we have a grip full of ways to dig for things. Let's open the graveyard here. It is relevant for Phoenixes. There's 2 in the yard, and there's a Spirit Script. Spirit Script can become copies of other instants and sorceries. So for cards like Unceasing Flames and Against the Waves, it will become your additional copies. And the drawing and discarding is relevant. Speaking of draw and discard, we got Creative Salvage here. It's going to ask us to discard a non-land card as a cost, and then we're going to draw 2 more cards. So while that gets resolved, let's talk a little bit about changes you can expect to see to Phoenix. Pip has already publicly discussed some of them in the format feedback channel. I'm just going to scroll up to make sure that I don't give away or, say things that haven't been publicly revealed. It doesn't really matter ultimately. It's just... so let's see. Pip has said... There was a very long format feedback channel. It's Phoenixes has been a really... hotly debated deck. It definitely has done a lot, and it's hard to interact with. I've mentioned it in the finals video, where it just does a lot on many different angles. All right, so data recovery here is going to work. So that is our 3rd spell. So we're going to go get back some more Phoenixes. All right, so let me just keep scrolling up here on Discord. This was a very long session. Okay, so things that we've already confirmed. Cats, sorry, my cats are saying hello. They're really silly in the morning, so. Come on, guys. All right. Morning zoomies. So, we've mentioned that one of the cards, and we haven't seen it here in this matchup right now, we've talked about Against the Waves has been one of the best ways of filling up the yard while still drawing cards. So I believe Against the Waves is going to be losing its base mill. And we've also, hitting a few other stuff. What we're not going to do, though, is meticulously go after every single draw 2, draw 1. I mean, I'm not saying that we're not hitting any, but, there's definitely things to keep in mind where it comes to, like, flavor, texture of a format. This is just something that we have a lot of access to, and we'll happily work around those cards, which is just, the way things have to be. All right, moving back up here, drew into a swamp. You definitely want to fire off that corpse bed once Phoenixes are in the yard rather than here, but at the same time, you've got Anapraxia's Endeavor. The one thing you can't do really right now is swing in too hard with Herald of Oblivion. Your opponent will just, swing back and take you out. So, paying 2 here, we're bringing out Profane Emissary. I kind of like this play here. As soon as we get a demon around, Profane Emissary is going to go to a 4/4 with lifelink. So that's going to be quite relevant. Once you're low life, nothing stops you from just going back up again. So, but we're passing the turn. We're keeping ourselves protected. The fact that we were not able to generate an additional 1/1 black bird means we don't have a second blocker. So functionally, if your opponent swings in for 3 and then another 3 in the air, you're only blocking one of them, and they keep coming back. But we have the Anapraxia's Endeavor here for mana. So speaking of Against the Waves, there it is. That's the card currently where you would mill 2 cards as a base, right? And then for each additional copy of Against the Waves in the graveyard, you would mill additional costs. So, and the fact that it conjures 3 copies of itself into the deck means you're more likely to mill additional copies incidentally, and then eventually you get to some copies it's like blue, mill yourself, 8, which just does a lot. Not that you're trying to deck yourself out, but I haven't seen a Phoenix match ever have to resort to going for the opponent mill plan yet in this format, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so something that could happen here is we end up Praxia's one of them, we block a second, we take 3, and then on the following turn we corpse bed out 2 of the Phoenixes. Is this what we're going to see here with the -2/-2 mode? Yeah. So it's going to be 3 damage sneaking through. I like that we're keeping up the 3/3 as a blocker here for, Piari and stuff. I mean, I think eventually we'll be able to swing in. The big important thing will be if we survive this turn, obviously, because, no offense, we've got 2 Spirit Scripts in the graveyard, which means that if we find a single copy of Unceasing Flames, that is 4 damage to the face, which will be enough. And because of Piari, Creative Salvage gets copied. So we dug, we didn't find it, but we still have, lots of ways of digging. So we have at least one more cast here with a, for example, a Gift of the Phoenix. And then, yeah, because all we need is that 1 burn spell. Your opponent's already at 4 life, and that's all you need. So draws into another Creative Salvage and another copy of Against the Waves. So Unceasing Flames hasn't had a chance to come out early, which means that the density of them in the deck is still just 4 cards, but almost every card you draw lets you find other cards that let you draw. You're at 12, If you get your 3rd spell off right now, which will happen, you're going to get your Myoga Firebirds back on the field anyway, which is where they're safest, right? There's not really a window here to instant speed get rid of them. So there's the Phoenixes back. Firebird's going to draw. Okay, still didn't find it, but woof. Yeah. It was really tough to find a spot to get rid of all the Phoenixes. I mean, it could have been an early hold up for Anapraxia's, but again, not knowing that your opponent has the hand that's that stacked, I do agree that it seems to make more sense to play out a card like Ink Summoner that itself can start steamrolling to have some board presence. Yeah, this is why Phoenix is currently, decently hard to deal with. It has lots of angles. You got the Phoenixes, you got the burn spells, you have Against the Waves as like a desperate, final version. You have Zerats in the deck, which can just keep creating additional tokens. Let me bring up that our lovely friend here, Zerat the Soul Searcher. There's just a lot of ways that the deck can kill you, and it requires, lots of different answers that not everyone has. This is a 7 mana Planeswalker. Not every answer that hits the graveyard or hits Phoenixes can hit a 7 mana Planeswalker. So, just things to keep in mind. Because it's a league match, we're not going to be able to spectate players' decks and see what's in the sideboard. I'm imagining Kayiu's running a stock list, so we're going to see maybe some creature counterspells, maybe Soul Pierce. But honestly, your deck is running so fast that I always find Phoenixes can almost just sort of ignore what the opponent's doing. That's not a really keepable hand, unfortunately, up here for Galatian Chiefs. I mean, a Cosmic Sinkhole is nice and is Monument, but, 5 lands and nothing else to do with it. Kind of risky, but okay. So I guess the thought process here is you put a Flood of Depths, you have 2 life. You're able to go at instant speed and fetch a Corpse Bed if you have to. You've also got the 1 mana here for Cosmic Sinkhole, so you can also counter whatever they do on turn 1. Then turn 2, you Monument to the Fallen Man, and you really hope that you start drawing 2-drops, is what I would imagine. Okay, so we're cracking the fetch land. Your opponent didn't put anything in the bin worth getting, so we're going to go for this basic island here. That's going to allow Flooded Morass to enter untapped. You don't really want to go up to 2 basics if you have like Ink Summoner, I would imagine, because of, you know, the life. Polypool's probably not what we want to draw here, unfortunately, but it does mean if we, you know... Interesting that we're playing it out here. Alright, your opponent's flashing into Mina, Jeweled Minnow at the end of your turn. We're going to... I'm so sorry, cat. You're sitting under my chair. I don't know why you would do that. So Cosmic Sinkhole takes care of Mina. Polypool's not having mana, though. It pretty much tells your opponent that you're F6, I would imagine. But, yeah. I mean, that's why we didn't play out the Monument, right? We're holding up the Sinkhole, but... Interesting. Okay. So this is going to be a Plaxalotl cast, so this is going to be spending blue, and then we're going to spend red on a different spell. Yeah, so that's, you know, Spell Pierce here, counters non-creature spells. I guess, yeah, you're hitting Monument, you're hitting the own counter spells and stuff, and Apraxias. I guess that's very relevant to get rid of versus just the creatures. So we drew 2, discarding 2, and then we're going to play Unceasing Flames. It's our first one. Let's open that graveyard here. So that should be 2 damage to the face, blue and red, and there's Piari coming in for free. Another hotly debated card. Honestly, it's really funny how Phoenix went from, it's not very good, to suddenly, wow, all these cards are absolutely nuts. And it's just the nature of how a format like this works, where it's based on the amount of players and the amount of cards that we have in the format, right? There's like over 14,000 cards, and, you know, we have anywhere between 30-ish active players on any given month. Some decks just don't see play because there's not enough players, and as a very like brew friendly format, people like playing decks that they like designing or that they find interesting, whether or not it's like the meta, so to speak. We have a creature for our Monument here. Flooded Morass is going to enter untapped because of our basic. We're going to run out the Monument, which can immediately refund itself and play out Diligent Fisherman if we need to. There's no Phoenixes yet, which is good because it's the less explosive starts, but just, you know, the explosive starts aren't the only playstyles that the Phoenix decks has. You know, the more Unceasing Flames you cast, the more of them there are in the deck, and Plaxalotl copies them, and Mina lets you play them for free. So what ultimately ends up happening is you just start dealing like absolutely crazy amounts of damage. Stop. My cat's being silly, and she's trying to eat tape. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, silly? You're getting a little bit bonus commentary here on what's going on in my house. I got 3 cats, so sometimes they choose moments such as when I'm recording to be absolutely silly. So there we go. Unceasing Flames copies. So that should be 3 damage and 3 damage. Yep. And we've shuffled in a bunch more. And here comes Mina. So Mina is very neat. The thing with Mina is she can cast your first enchantment, instant, or sorcery with mana value 1 each turn without paying the mana cost. Which does mean that your Spell Pierces actually function for free on your opponent's turn. Or, you know, you can't use Cosmic Sinkhole, but anything else that's instant speed. So Creative Salvage also works. Alright, so we're dropping in Diligent Fisherman, which is an interesting card in that it's a blue card that digs for creatures. Well, that's actually not a horrible find, honestly. Profane Emissary is nice. Going up to a 4/4 is good, but one of the issues is, you know, there's already 2 Unceasings in the yard, so your opponent is already at 4 damage if they ever find another copy. And again, we just shuffled in 9 copies, and we've played 2, so there's, like, you know, a lot of Unceasing Flames just lying around. Playing out the 4th land, choosing not to run out the 2nd Monument here, which is fine, because again, Mina could have, you know, taxed you on it, but you had the mana for it. Yeah, I mean, all's fair. Okay, so free cast and copy wheat from chaff. So it's going to be a draw 2, discard 2, investigate, then do it again. I'm assuming we're going to pitch the Heist Headquarters. Probably Unquenched Greed because data recovery can just be a copy, or do, I don't know. I'm not sure we get rid of the Spell Pierce. The Spell Pierce is like so free on your opponent's turn that you probably want to keep it, unless you feel like you really need to keep a density of draws. But you're going to draw another 2, discard another 2, and get another Investigate here. So, yeah. I can understand why Kayu's thinking a little bit. I'm not, I mean, I'm not even sure that we, do we pitch? Like, do we want a third land? This is tough. This is a tough draw 2, discard 2. Because we know we're doing it again. We're going to have clues. Okay, so Greed, yeah, and Spell Pierce. Okay, so we went with the I would like a third land, please, and Data Recovery is really good because it's just a copy of anything I'm discarding this turn. So here's the second draws and discards. I would assume we're going to see the fourth Heist Headquarters hit the bin. No, okay. We're just pitching both of them. Creative Salvage, Data Recovery, too good. We're fine not going up to 3 lands. We've got 2 clues here. So normally this would not be the art for the clue token that's made from Wheat from Chaff, but no offense to anyone running that card, the clue token on it just kind of bothers me. It's like someone lying in bed and looking at a blood spot next to their head, but it's like a very tiny little blood spot, and the token just rubs me the wrong way. So I've put in the Seasons of War clue tokens as replacement custom images. So I apologize to anyone who really likes those clue tokens, but they bother me enough that I've removed them. So one thing that I do want to do though, which I haven't done in a while, is these basics, the AFM basics, are like kind of like the defaults just by virtue of the set having the first letter alphabetically, in a sense. So the format defaults to these if someone hasn't set their cards to have a specific art. If you would like to see a set of basics, and I'm gonna be a little clearer on this because I've had some people ask me for like custom ones. If you would like a set of basics, either from Canon Magic or from Custom Magic, just drop a comment in the just drop a comment on the video. Tell me which cycle of basics you'd like me to put on, and I will do it for at least until the next video or two. I haven't really decided how long I want to do this, but I definitely want to have these little basics. I think it's a neat little thing that I can do. So if you watch this video and you want to see different basics in this slot and the future ones, please just drop a comment and tell me which ones you would like. Please be specific. Sometimes people have asked for something and it's just totally not clear what they want. So either shoot me a link or be like very clear, like I want the full art basics from Theros, Beyond Death, or I would really like this one from A Secret Lair or this one from MSEM. Any of them. But I would like it to be one from MSEM, could be one from Canon Magic, and I'm even fine if there's one from Revolution Custom Standard, our sister custom format from on a different server, but they have really cool lands there too. So, all that to say, Kayiu has done some incredible digging on this turn. We've drawn up to Celestial Banishment, which is neat. But we found some Unceasing Flame, so things are going to start, heating up. So that's 8 face because of Plaxolotl. And then we have, we've drawn into the Zerat, the Minas, all that jazz. So yeah, this is going to be a part where things get a little nuts. But we're responding to the copy trigger. I'm assuming we're going to see a Celestial Banishment pointed at Piari, right? Because it is a triggered ability whenever you cast. Yeah. So the copy won't fire, and I believe that will counter that copy and then exile Piari, if I'm reading that correctly. All right, so we're going 4 face. Oh, hold up. Oh, what? Wait a second. Because it counters the... I'm just going to see. Yeah, it's only 4. Like, you countered the ability, right? So yeah, Celestial Banishment counters the activator triggered ability, and then yeah, okay, cool. Alrighty. I mean, there's another Unceasing Flames in hand, so there's a lot of damage that can potentially come out here. Running out this other Nebula, so we're at the 3 lands. That gives us, a Zerat if we want it. We can just, Galation's getting pretty low here. All right, tapping out 2. Yep, here comes Zerat. Another thing that people are, this is our kind of like our Murktide, people have been calling it. So the fact that it costs less for each instant and sorcery card, but doesn't actually exile them is a big thing, especially when you find future copies. So you can kind of like cycle them if you find one and you've used the -3 mode on it. Yeah, it's a very good card. The fact that the 2/2 blue elementals, I mean, pretty much anything you would have put at them anyway would have poofed them. The fact that we're just generating 2/2 flyers every turn is huge. Going up to 5 is big here because it puts us out of a swing here. Okay, so we're finally bringing out Profane Emissary. We have Polyp Pools, which is a demon. It's got Changeling, so it's every creature type. So it means that this swing is going to heal us for 4, which is, decently relevant. Iron Warden here also isn't bad. Especially with any number of target creatures, means we can poof. Oh no, that's just target spell. Never mind. But I mean, we can still clear kind of like what's going on here if a block comes in. I assume this is going to be the second monument. Yep. Your opponent's tapped out. I mean, they have a Mina, so yeah, it could be a counter, but nothing, I believe, in the deck counters for more than 2. So, all right, swing for 4, gain 4. Not swinging at the Zerat. Could be risky because Zerat can -3 to bring the. I mean, you bring it back, they just monument it in, honestly. So that is actually good counterplay. The fact that we've got the 2 monuments here. So even if your opponent puts back your creature in your hand, you can just immediately drop it untapped. Doesn't have flying though. We know there's a Phoenix in hand. Don't have any Grave Hate going on here. We're up to 3 Unceasing Flame copies in the discard. No Spirit Script, so this one will do 4 damage here. We're doing +1 on Zerat. We're getting our second token here. And once you're above a certain number, I mean, Zerat just becomes harder and harder to get rid of. It was a really wild match in, it was the finals, I believe, right? Where we had a Biohazard played out for like 10 mana just so that X could become 7 to get rid of this thing. The fact that it's a 7 drop actually makes it pretty wild. Alright, there's a second illusion. We haven't used Mina's ability yet this turn, so we could free cast an Unceasing Flames. Your opponent's going to do what? Well, let me see if we have lethal. When you don't know if your opponent's holding a counterspell, obviously we know they aren't. Kayiu doesn't, because I believe you could do 3 mana. You could actually just hard cast Plaxlotl Piari, and we haven't cast anything with mana value 1 this turn, right? We've just done the +1, and then free casting the Unceasing Flames off of Mina. Plaxlotl would copy, and then we swing. We have this 2 damage here in the air, and I think that would be enough. Is this what we're doing? Okay, there's Plaxlotl. Okay, and is this just going to be it? Unceasing Flames to the face, free cast, and then, yeah. I don't know why that's 10 to the face. Isn't it 4? What? Oh, sorry. Base 2. I had Against the Waves in my head. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 damage, 5 damage. 10 damage. We didn't even have to do the swing, but, no reason not to. So there we go. That was another pretty solid Phoenix win. I mean, if you're playing in League right now, bird is the word, as Galatian Cheese says. So thanks for stopping by. We hope you enjoyed another showcase of how Phoenix is doing perfectly fine in this league. And hopefully we can get at least one more video sometime today that's not a Phoenix match, just for a little bit of diversity. But welcome to the format, Galatian Cheese. Hope you stick around. And to anybody else thinking of joining, we'd be happy to have you. So take care and have a good one.